meeting to order. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Jonesboro weekly meeting. Reigning four-time Club of the Year. There's the bell. Inspirational moment. Real change, enduring change happens one step at a time. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Rotary four-way test. We all know that very well. Try to live it every day. Our vision: together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. I will let Christy Matthews introduce Kaki.
So I met Kaki. She was a young, energetic 16-year-old intern at a radio station that I worked prior to coming to the Jonesboro Radio Group. And I immediately fell in love with her just infectious smile and her zest and energy for life. And it's been just a privilege to watch her grow into the amazing woman that she is, and mother and wife. And so that's my personal endorsement of her. But here's her official bio. She is a Jonesboro native, and you'll see she's got her JHS hat on today, I think. She's a graduate of the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, where she earned her bachelor's degree in human ecology with an emphasis in child and family studies and youth at risk. Upon her graduation, she continued as a graduate assistant for the University of Tennessee football department as she continued her education. Back in 2003, she began serving women and teens in crisis as a counselor and educator at Hope Resource Center, which is a faith-based sexual health clinic. And then later, she served to open and operate a branch of Hope located in the heart of the UT campus. 2005, Kaki and Chris welcomed their first daughter into their family. And since then, she has served as a full-time homemaker and home educator to their 8 children. Kaki is passionate about loving God, His Word, and His people, and she loves to proclaim, "Oh, come and magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt His name together." Please welcome my friend Kaki Hurley.
It is so good to be with y'all today. I wish that I could be back in Jonesboro. Jonesboro runs deep in my family. My great-grandparents were there. My grandparents, Mary Catherine Berry and Charles Keller. Just my mom went to ASU. My dad played football at ASU. So we just love Jonesboro. I have 2 children that are actually planning on coming, and their goal is to make Jonesboro their hometown. So it is such a pleasure to be with you all today. Christy asked me to share a little bit about just our journey through schooling. I've had the privilege of doing several types of schooling. We have homeschooled, we have done private school, we have done public school, we have done co-ops, we have done classical conversations, we have done charter schools, and Charlotte Mason. We've just kind of run the gamut. I also have children that have learning challenges, and so we've had experienced a new journey with that. So it is just a pure delight to be here today. I want to open with this question for you all. Was your educational experience positive or negative? And I know we have the chat. I debated back and forth on whether to do a PowerPoint or not. And after research, all of that, I just decided to stick to the good old pencil and paper, just as I wrote down some notes. And then also just for you guys, there's lots of studies out now, especially with our brains, that just pencil and paper do a whole lot of work in our brains. And so I love seeing the chat come across that you all had positive experiences. There are some that had negative too. The next question I want you to think on is there a teacher or a staff that left a lasting impact on your life? When we come to think about education, our culture tends to want to put us into a one-size-fits-all, especially with traditional schooling. And we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and we all can't fit in a box. And so I titled this talk as Destination School. And with that, kind of wanting to just take the idea and think about how we have GPSs now that give us various routes to get to our destination. And so when we're thinking about our children, our grandchildren, our nieces and nephews, or even just children in our community, what destination do we want them to have when it comes to education? You had a woman talk about literacy a few weeks ago. You had another lady share about adoption and the foster system in the state of Arkansas, and those organizations are vital. We have lots of homes that need help and support and encouragement. And so when it comes to education and we think about the destination that we want our own children or others to get to, we definitely want them to have an education, and we definitely want them to be able to read. Those are crucial to surviving and thriving in our communities. And so with that, just the overview of just kind of education and the types of education, we have a system right now that is being kind of tossed on its end with virtual COVID schooling, as it's being called. And just was speaking with a friend today, and her sister's a teacher in town, and they're having to adapt, and they're having to think outside the box and learn things that they never thought they would. And so it's also opening the doors for families to consider the various types of schooling. I even researched recently, there is a new thing called forest schooling. So they basically, kind of reminds me of really what Abraham Lincoln did. He just would go out into the woods and learn, and then would read books. So they're all different sizes and ways to educate. And so we have different routes that we can journey on. We can journey on the public school route, which is traditional, or the private school, homeschool. There's even unschooling, the classical, the forest, the co-op, or the charter schools. And that's just a short list. There are many, many more. Another question that I'd love for y'all to consider is, what are your kids, or those that are in your sphere, what are their gifts? Thinking through their strengths and weaknesses, how can they kind of be catered towards those strengths and encouraging them? What do they love? What do they enjoy? What do they get passionate about? I have a son who is passionate about bones. He loves them, loves to look at them, hold them, study them, loves to find animals that are dead and just discover them. And so thinking through, what are the options and how can I support him in that? Is he going to be a taxidermist? Will he be with fish and wildlife? Will he be forensics? We at UT, they have this amazing place called the Body Farm, and they have literally changed forensic science all over the world. This graduate assistant came in about 30 years ago with the idea, and they place bodies in various decomposing stages so that they can study the way that they decompose, so that it helps them solve crimes. It's fascinating. So will he do something like that? Or also, he's really good with his hands. Will he be more in the technical field? Or, so all those things that we can think about for our kids, their gifts, their strengths, but also not being afraid to let them fail. And this can be hard as a parent. It's also hard. Our culture really promotes success. And I know personally that I have learned the most through the times that I have failed. And I'm sure many of you could testify to that. I love, yes, let them learn failing forward. I love that. Thanks so much for sharing that in the chat. And so we know that with all the various forms of education that's out there now, there's no one right way to school. We know that there's not ever going to be a perfect way, that there are pros and cons to all of those. But now more than ever, we need to be encouraging students, the staff, the teachers, and one of Rotary's or y'all's motto is service over self. And so I want to just encourage you all. I know that many of you are already involved so much in the city, but I just want to encourage you all of ways to get involved, whether that's giving relief to maybe a family member or a neighbor that has just started homeschooling. They definitely need breaks. And then also for the schools, the teachers, the staff, they're all being thrown curveballs, and the parents. And so what are some ways that Rotary can actively encourage those teachers and the staff in Jonesboro? And then putting some of those into action. So thinking through what are the ways that we can uplift and encourage those in the education field. And so I wanted to end, I know that you probably weren't expecting to be read to today, but I wanted to end with reading y'all a children's book. I think it is a great example of how we can get our mindset thinking one way about ourselves, but then it takes those around us to come along, to see us, to encourage us, and then to champion us in our walk. So it's the Pal Palfish, and it is by Deborah Dyson. Deep in the water where the fish hang out lives a glum, gloomy swimmer with an ever-present pout. I'm a pout fish with a pout face, so I spread the dreary wearies all over the place. Blub, blub, blub. Along comes a clam with a wide grin and a pearl of advice for her pal to take in. Hey, Mr. Fish, with your crosstown frown, don't you think it's time to turn it upside down? Says the fish to his friend. Nice, thought Miss Clam. I hear what you're saying, but it's just the way I am. I'm a pout fish with a pout face, so I spread the dreary wearies all over the place. Blub, blub, blub. Along comes a jellyfish. He floats through the ocean, his tentacles all trailing into a gentle locomotion. Hi, Mr. Fish, with your daily scrawl. I wish you wouldn't greet us with a grimace and a growl, says the fish to his friend. Mr. Jelly, I agree. I'd like to be more friendly, but it isn't up to me. Can't we think that way a lot? I'm a pout fish with a pout face, so I spread the dreary wearies all over the place. Blub, blub, blub. I'm a pout fish with a pout face, so I spread the dreary wearies all over the place. Blub, blub, blub. Along comes an octopus with 8 great arms covered on the underside with tiny sucker charms. Hey, Mr. Fish, let me tell it to you straight. You're hulky and bulky, sulky. It's an unattractive trait. Oh, Mr. 8, my chum, with a mouth like mine, I'm destined to be glum. I'm a pout fish with a pout face, so I spread dreary wearies all over the place. Blub, blub, blub. Now along comes a fish in a silent silver shimmer. The gang has never seen before this bright and brilliant swimmer. She approaches Mr. Fish, but instead of saying, hey, she plants a big kiss upon his pout and then she swims away. Mr. Fish is most astounded. Mr. Fish is aghast. He's stone-faced like a statue, then he blinks and speaks at last. My friends, said Mr. Fish, I should have known it all along. I thought that I was pouty, but it turns out I was wrong. I'm a kiss-kiss fish with a kiss-kiss face for spreading cheery cheers all over the place. So I'll smooch, and I'll smooch, and I'll smooch, and I'll smooch. And in this world, we need others reminding us that we can brighten someone's day just by giving them a smile, just by giving them a word of encouragement, or just by taking time to read a book to encourage them to be lifelong learners. Thank y'all.
Oh, I love her.
Kaki, thank you for that presentation. Does anybody have any questions for Kaki?
I think that was great. She ought to be a teacher.
She is.
Yeah, I bet she did good.
Well, it's funny because all my family are either teachers or nurses, and I did not want to be either. I wanted to be a politician. I wanted to go and serve in the government. And so the Lord had other plans, but it has been interesting learning that all of us can be teachers and all of us can encourage education, and those that even just watching some of my kids with learning challenges, that there are those out there, even adults, that had negative experiences, but realize maybe now or don't even know that they have dyslexia or another type of learning challenge. And there's still opportunity to get help, and also to be able to know that you can always be a lifelong learner.
You smile too much to be a politician.
Kaki, can we get your email? Is it possible to get your email? Maybe Christy could give that to us, or
Yeah,
Sure.
okay. I'd like to touch base with you. I'm in education, so I love everything you had to say.
Thank you.
Kaki, I think before the meeting started, you mentioned your son had switched to homeschool just recently. Have y'all seen an increase in homeschool students with everything that's going on? I know a lot of folks are virtual, but I didn't know if any of them actually switched to homeschool as opposed to virtual.
Yeah, it's actually my daughter.
Oh, okay.
She's in 8th grade. We actually considered her skipping 8th grade. And so we still were kind of unsure at the beginning of the year, but all of my younger 6 went to a charter school here in town. And we wanted to do that for several reasons. But for her, it just wasn't a good fit. The class sizes are very small, which is a positive, can be a positive. But on the flip side of that, it can be a negative when the classroom environment isn't the most productive or efficient. And she is a self-motivated student. She already, as an 8th grader, knows that she wants to do something with animals, probably maybe with vet stuff, maybe not fully a veterinarian, but she's kind of a dream as a child, in the sense that she will come up with her own assignments after I've already given her assignments. And so she's just a fantastic student. So we brought her home, and she's already rocking and rolling with homeschool. But we have seen an increase. Those that did not ever think that they would homeschool are homeschooling. A part of that is because they themselves, they have someone that's at high risk in their family, or the student themselves are. And then for others, they just kind of thought they're going to go to virtual anyway after the schools kick in and the virus spreads. And so they didn't want to have that change for their student. So we have seen that over here in Tennessee as well.
I think Timothy Lee had a question in the chat for you. It says, my girlfriend is a first-year special ed teacher. She's having some trouble with the discrepancy of the attention between her online and in-class students. Do you have any advice I could pass along on how she could effectively manage it all?
Wow. First of all, her heart to work with special ed students is beautiful. We need more of those. And so I would encourage her to reach out and ask those that are her advisors and that have been in that field for many, many, many years. And I love and appreciate them.
All right, Kaki, we appreciate you being with us and
Thanks for having me.
sharing with us. Enjoyed that. My kids, most all of my kids started out at Ridgefield, small private school, and that was a good setting for them to build a good foundation. Now they're all at Valley View, so they're getting over the last 2-3 years and getting acclimated to a larger setting to kind of prepare for that college life. So
yeah, and everybody, every family is different, and we have changed almost every year. We just take it a year at a time, and I think that that's important to also consider your family season and your family situation, and also those individual students and what they'll be needing. Because it's great to go to college, but I also am very, very thankful for the plumber that comes to my house and helps me. And I know my mom is so thankful for the electricians that are working on the power lines down in Alabama as they just got hit by the hurricane. And so there are many options in the education field, both a trade and in academia settings. Thanks.
we appreciate it. Next week, we'll be back again. I'm working on, I'm going to ask for some volunteers to maybe work with Sam and myself on a committee to run a hybrid meeting. So we'll need some folks that are good with technology and be willing to be in person at the auditorium to try to do a hybrid meeting where we can offer an in-person option and a Zoom option at the same time. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, if we can get a group of people together to do that, we'll visit about it and try to make that happen and start trying to do that going forward. So if you are interested in helping out with that and willing to help out with that, I know I asked a couple of people via email and got a response or two. So, but we'll need some extra people in case somebody is out, sick, whatever may happen, so we can keep that going. So, but next week we will meet. Right now, planning online Habitat for Humanity of Greater Jonesboro, Michael Sullivan. And then thought for the day: a man's mind stretched by new ideas may never return to its original dimensions. Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. We will adjourn until next week. So y'all have a great week. Have a great day. See y'all next week.
Everybody be safe.
You too, Al.